The German shepherd's bark tore through the solemn hush of Maple Hollow Funeral Home like a siren slicing the night. Mauser stood tall, muscles taut, his dark coat bristling with tension. His amber eyes locked on the polished walnut casket resting at the front of the room, where the body of Chief Jonathan Weller lay in silent repose. The pastor's words dissolved beneath the dog's urgent howls, and mourners turned in stunned alarm. "Get that damn dog out of here," barked Deputy Chief Brandon Keller, his voice sharp with embarrassment. Detective Marcus Clay watched the scene unfold. Two officers approached Mauser, attempting to restrain him. But the dog jerked free, hurling himself toward the casket with such force that he knocked over the flower arrangements and nearly upended the stand. The room gasped. At the front, Elise Weller, the chief's widow, clutched her chest with trembling hands. Mauser wasn't grieving. He was mourning. Marcus had seen this dog on countless crime scenes during his career, maulings, overdoses, arson investigations. But never had he seen Mauser this insistent. The dog lunged at the casket, teeth ripping at the satin liner. Chaos exploded. Mourners shouted. Hands tried to pull the dog away. Marcus stepped forward, cold understanding coalescing in his gut. "Stop," he said. "Open the casket. Open it now." A hush fell. Only Mauser's growls remained. That moment would haunt everyone present for the rest of their lives. Detective Marcus Clay had served the town of Maple Hollow for 23 years, 15 under Chief Weller. At 46, the lines on his face told of late nights and unbearable truths. His close-cropped hair and piercing blue eyes gave away little. But those who knew him recognized a man whose loyalty was earned and not easily shaken. 3 years ago, Marcus lost his wife, Rachel, to ovarian cancer. The house they once shared had become a tomb of echoes. Most didn't know that Weller had once pulled Marcus off a self-destructive path. As a 16-year-old caught shoplifting, Marcus had been intercepted by a young patrolman named Weller, who took him home, fed him dinner, and offered him community service in lieu of charges. That night altered the trajectory of Marcus' life. "You've got sharp instincts, kid," Weller had said back then. "Trust them, even when nobody else does." Jonathan Weller had been a fixture in the community, tall, broad-shouldered, with salt and pepper hair and a calm authority that commanded respect. He and Elise had no children, but had mentored dozens of troubled youth. Their dog, Mauser, had once served in the K-9 unit before an injury forced early retirement. He stayed on as a pet and a quiet sentinel. 7 years earlier, Mauser had lost his original handler in a botched drug raid. Weller had been the one to pull Mauser from the rubble and stay with him through recovery. Their bond was unbreakable. Mauser might have retired, but his instincts hadn't. Elise Weller, a third-grade teacher at Maple Hollow Elementary, sat surrounded by weeping friends and former students. Her grief was compounded by confusion. Her husband had been in perfect health. Deputy Chief Brandon Keller was Weller's second-in-command, a man known more for ambition than compassion. At 49, he carried himself with crisp professionalism, but few trusted him. Where Weller inspired affection, Keller generated calculation. Dr. Adrian Knight, the county medical examiner, stood near the back, her sharp gaze observing everything. New to the area, she was already known for her meticulousness. And something about the chief's sudden death had troubled her from the start. Maple Hollow had changed. Once a sleepy manufacturing town, it had been hollowed by economic downturns and a rising opioid crisis. Weller had recently launched an investigation into a trafficking network believed to extend high into the town's leadership. When Marcus received the call, he was poring over case files. Officer Janelle Reese had delivered the news. Chief Weller, dead of an apparent heart attack, found by Elise on their living room couch. Marcus's disbelief was instant and visceral. "No," he had said. "That's not possible." But it was, or so it seemed. At the funeral, as Mauser was dragged in on a leash by a neighbor, the dog went berserk the moment he caught scent of the casket. Whines turned into growls, then sharp barks, escalating into frenzied scratching. Deputy Keller bristled. "This is disrespectful. Get that dog out of here." But Marcus saw something different. Mauser's not upset, Marcus said softly. He's alerting. Dr. Knight moved closer. You see it too, she said. There was no autopsy, Marcus noted. Not officially, Knight replied. Paramedics said it was a clear cardiac arrest. No need to involve me. But she trailed off as Mauser launched himself again. Keller swore and stepped in. Get that dog out of here, or I will. Marcus knelt beside the dog. Wait, he said. Just wait. Silence fell. The crowd parted. Marcus looked to Elise. Ma'am, he said gently. Do you trust me? Elise nodded, eyes red and wet. Yes, she whispered. Open it. The director hesitated, then began undoing the latches. The casket creaked open. Gasps filled the room. And then, there's a pulse, Knight said, fingers pressed to Weller's neck. He's alive. The room erupted. What followed was a blur of sirens, panic, and stunned relief. Weller was rushed to Maple Hollow Medical Center. Knight discovered a small puncture wound near his collarbone, a needle mark. It wasn't a heart attack. Someone had drugged him, dosed him with a substance that mimicked death. And they had almost succeeded. Marcus suspected Keller immediately. Within hours, more evidence surfaced. Surveillance footage showed someone entering Weller's study the night before he was found. Forensic techs discovered that files on the trafficking investigation had been deleted. Weller's safe had been opened. Then there was the midnight visitor. The night before the funeral, Marcus had stayed at the funeral home with Mauser. At 12:17 a.m., a man had emerged from the shadows, claiming to be an old friend. Mauser had growled at him with unmistakable hostility. The man called himself Simon Grant, but left no contact info. Hours later, Mauser had heard something from within the coffin, a faint thump. Now, back at the hospital, Weller hovered in critical condition. Keller had vanished. A manhunt ensued. And then came the final blow, a second attempt on Weller's life. A man in surgical scrubs tried to inject something into Weller's fore. Mauser intervened again, despite his injuries. The man escaped, but not before Marcus saw his face. Simon Grant. Eventually, Parker was caught, Grant shot during the final confrontation. Inside his coat, they found a badge from a private intelligence firm. Files later recovered from Weller's uniform pocket revealed damning information. Connections between Keller, Grant, and high-ranking officials in Maple Hollow. Even the town mayor, Evelyn Blake, was implicated. But the true mastermind was Commissioner Douglas Vance, Weller's longtime friend and patron. Vance had orchestrated everything to silence Weller and frame Marcus as a fall guy. It almost worked. Weller survived, though he required long-term care. Marcus was offered the role of interim chief. He accepted with quiet resolve. Mauser, despite his injuries, made a full recovery. At a special ceremony, he received the town's first-ever K-9 Medal of Valor. The dog who refused to be silenced had saved the soul of the town. Under Marcus' leadership, Maple Hollow began to rebuild. Trust returned slowly, like sunlight through fog. And though the scars of betrayal ran deep, the town endured. One step at a time. And Mauser never barked without reason again.